guys? Welcome to Stormwater Creek Podcast. Today we are very happy, excited, honored to have Hank Shaw here to talk about cooking, hunting, wherever the road takes us. Hank, welcome.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So, we're very familiar. Most of our friends are very familiar. And everybody probably has you do this, but just give an intro, give as much bio, whatever you want to say, let people know who you are, what you do.
Well, I run the website Hunter Angler Gardener Cook, which is the internet's largest source of wild food recipes, and I've been doing that since 2007. I'm the author of 4 cookbooks, all of which involve cooking either fish or game, and I have a 5th cookbook coming out in the spring, which is going to be solely about fish and seafood. I've been a chef. I've been a newspaper reporter. I don't know, climb mountains, tame lions, drink beer,
wrestle crocodiles,
dig up dead bodies, just the usual.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, right?
Yeah. Well, man, it's great to have you on here. I recently listened to a Orvis podcast from last year you were on, and you kind of gave your backstory of growing up and kind of starting to cook at home, and then started cooking in a restaurant really young, and just fell in love with it. Always loved it.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to eat at decent restaurants. My mom was an okay cook. She's not terrible, but this is not one of those stories where oh, my mom was such a great cook. I learned everything from her. Yeah, no. She was fine, but where she shone was in showing me the wild plants and teaching me how to fish, and also going to nice restaurants. So I was exposed to game, at an early age, not from, chicken fried steak or something like that, but at nice restaurants in New York City. So when I finally ended up hunting, which is much later in life, I had my preconceived notion about game was that it's a swanky kind of date food, as opposed to something that would be, in a lot of parts of this country, game is associated with poverty. Sure. And that was never entered into my mind. So that's part of how I approach cooking, fishing, game. It's always fun. These are amazing ingredients, and you just have to make them shine.
Absolutely.
For sure. And that kind of brings up a point I've always liked to say, and I always use your books as a reference for this, of people that say oh, I had duck, I don't like it. It's so, greasy, or, they always have something they say, or this
tastes like liver.
Yeah, this fish is a trash fish or whatever, and it's dude, I grew up kind of the same, where we ate game like it was a big deal to eat game, and hearing people trash it, it's weird.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a friend in Minnesota he's got a whole website called "You Have to Cook It Right." It's a well-named website.
Yeah, that's straight.
It's so true. Not everything is good fried in butter, and
or wrapped in bacon in the case of southern U.S.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so right.
God,
put a jalapeno and some bacon on it, and you can eat anything. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you're eating jalapenos and bacon.
Yeah. Cream cheese.
But what's funny is that there a lot of the things that people like to hate on are either universally improperly cooked. Yes. Duck is a great example you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I went with the duck.
Or it's a thing that is amazing in X or Y cooking method, but those cooking methods are in the wheelhouse of the average American home cook.
For sure.
This is true with some game and lots of fish and lots of things like edible plants and mushrooms, where if you do this with it, it's amazing, but if you fry it in butter, it's no good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned, East Coast New York City. So you grew up out there. Now you're in Northern California, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up in New Jersey, and I spent my first 18 years there. And I went to undergraduate school in Long Island, and then graduate school at Wisconsin. Go Badgers. And then I've lived in Virginia. I worked in D.C. and Virginia, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Jersey, New York, and California. And so I've lived in a bunch of states, and I've been to every state but Hawaii.
Gotcha. Hawaii on the list, or just hadn't made it yet?
Just haven't made it yet.
Gotcha.
And it's one of those things where everyone's like, how could you not go to Hawaii? Fishing's really not that good. And everybody likes to say, oh, the fishing's got to be amazing. It's a bunch of islands. Like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's better than the Gulf.
So yeah, you've ran around the continental U.S. some. Have you spent any time in the South? Any time in Texas?
Tons of time in the South and tons of time in Texas. I try to get to either Mobile Bay or Panhandle of Florida every spring to fish, and I don't think there's been a year I haven't hunted or fished in Texas in like 10 years.
That's awesome. Like what? Where at? What? Talk to us. Nobody loves Texas more than Texans. So
it's true. There are like 5 great states in this country where like we all think like we're the greatest things on the planet. Like New Yorkers, Texans, Californians, and Illinoisans. Like
Illinoisans, interesting.
Florida, you can add to be the 5th state. Like those 5 states are like chest thumping states, like nobody's business.
Yeah.
I feel like Florida is Texas's crazy stepbrother.
You are not wrong.
But continue. I'm sorry.
So I mean, let's see. God, I've hunted geese and ducks and geese and rails in Texas. I've hunted doves in Texas. I've fished up and down the Gulf for gar. I've shot chachalacas in Texas. I have. Have I hunted big game in Texas? I've hunted pigs in Texas.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think I've actually hunted deer in Texas, and I know I haven't done any exotics yet, but that's on the list. But I typically go there. I used to hang out in Bay City with an outfitter, and we do culinary schools. So it's kind of a deal where, 8 or 10 or 12 people come into the lodge, and it's a hunt for pigs or for whatever, and we do a lot of different hunts. And then after you finish hunting, it's a kind of a game prep and a cooking school on the back end of that. And those have been pretty fun and successful. We started them all in Bay City.
Yeah, I actually was going to bring that up here in a little bit, and I'm glad you did before me. That I saw that the other day and thought that was super interesting, a super neat way to approach that.
Do you know the name of that outfitter place? I don't.
Yeah, it's Coastal Wings, but he's picked up sticks and gone to Frederick, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Frankly, because the duck hunting's better there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's funny too. We had this conversation a lot recently. We're all DFW based, so Oklahoma's a short drive for Texans away. And a lot of people talk, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but how Oklahoma's just an unspoken duck mecca. Because everybody talks Arkansas, everybody talks every place else, but they say duck hunting's really good in Oklahoma, but just everybody kind of keeps it under wraps. So apparently, I'm going to be the guy who blows the lid off for our 7 followers.
It's not me this time, because I'm the one that normally gets yelled at for that. So
I don't think
gladly let you share the mantle.
The first person to talk about Oklahoma duck hunting. I mean,
Sure.
It's like Idaho. They let the cat out of the bag in Idaho like 5 or 6 years ago, and like people were showing triple limits of just greenheads, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the most amazing thing ever! You can shoot greenheads all the time." And they're like, "Where are you?" They're like, Idaho. So now people go to Idaho to hunt ducks.
Interesting.
And I mean, I'll be honest, I've hunted Arkansas quite a bit, and it's okay. I'm not sure that I would travel from where I live to Arkansas. I would for friends, but like if I'm just gonna go to try and shoot lots of ducks, you stay in California.
Sure.
We shoot more ducks every year than any other state, and that's a great way to win a bar bet, by the way.
Oh, that is.
If you're ever sitting at a bar,
I would have bet against that.
Yeah, especially with another duck hunter who's from like Texas or even better, Arkansas.
Oh yeah.
Say, hey man, what states do you think shoot the most ducks? And
Arkansas, brother.
Virtually, they will never say California, but we're almost always number one. Sometimes Louisiana beats us, but pretty often we're number one, and sometimes we're number 2.
That's really interesting. Just that flyway just runs through there.
Well, yeah, we're the wintering ground for the entire flyway.
Yeah.
And we're allowed 7 ducks a day and 30 geese.
Wow.
So we can get 10 specks and 20 white geese. We get so that it's a dark geese, light geese thing. So it's specks or Canada geese, and is the one limit, and then the 20 snow geese is the other limit, and then 7 ducks. So, liberal limits is pretty sweet, and hunting pressure is. actually pretty significant in the sense that if there's any hunting in California that is part of the social fabric, it's duck and goose hunting.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because I hear people talk about California all the time, and to everybody else outside of California, you don't think of California not being L.A. and
Orange County.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
it's true. It's true. I mean, so somebody was getting up in my grill a couple of years ago in Wyoming about damn liberal California, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, look, buddy, there are more Republicans in my county than live in Wyoming.
Yeah, Northern California is a whole different place. My dad and stepmom lived up there, and they've said the same. Like, people only think of California, like we said, L.A. and Orange County and Malibu and stuff. But no, you get up north, it's back to, quote, normal life.
It's everything from normal to, people up in the high Sierra Nevada mountains, like some interesting people up in the
sure, some real deal hillbillies.
California hill people.
Hill Jacks is what it's
Hill Jacks. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny. What was I? So you were talking about hunting pigs in Texas. Obviously, that's a huge thing. As of this year, you don't even have a license to hunt them. I believe Texas has more pigs than any place else at this point. Clearly, a big problem.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Jesse Griffith down in Austin at Didui?
Yeah, we're very good friends.
I would assume as such. The elite of the game chefs, right? He does a lot of
yeah.
I've chatted with him a little bit on Instagram, and we've tried to, we're trying to get our schedule aligned to talk to him too, because we just admire you guys so much and your talent and skill and passion for cooking game like we have. The parasites and the trichinosis and all of that. What are your take? What's your take on that? We eat a ton of pigs, so we're absolutely for it. But it's always nice to hear other people's.
Yeah, so I did some data research on trick and Wildgame because I get this question a lot. So I spent some time and read all the science. One of the good things about my background is I learned how to read scientific papers, so you don't have to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The short version is there's two kinds of trick parasite in American game. There's there's nativa and there's spiralis. So Trichini spiralis is the parasite that generally lives from, put in your mind a map of the United States. Now think about all of the top tier states next to Canada. Those are all nativa. So in Texas and in the South and in most of California and the whole the belly of the country, that's spiralis. And Trichini spiralis can be rendered inert by freezing. Now I didn't say kill because it doesn't actually die,
quote,
but nor does it give
deactivated.
you any problems. So it's technically it's not dead, but it's not going to make you sick. Mm-hmm. So that you can freeze. So you could eat medium rare Texas wild pig after it's been frozen for a month or so. So, not that anybody necessarily wants to, but that particular strain of trichinosis will be rendered inert by freezing. However, once you get up farther north, you get the one that's native to the North Country, which is Trichini nativa, which is not rendered inert by freezing. And this becomes a problem with bears. So all the bear hunters, where all the best bear hunting is, it's the other trick that lives.
Yep. Isn't that where Renell and Yanni got it from? It was bear?
Indeed it is. Womp womp. It's funny. I saw that video. I'm like, they know. They're like, don't do it. It's like watching a horror movie where this person
no, don't go upstairs.
You're smarter
than
this.
Don't go upstairs.
But they must have just been so tired and everything.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yep. Running that low blood sugar, low calorie intake. It's a whip.
You're just ready to eat.
So the other piece is brucellosis and tapeworm. And so I've heard of one person getting brucellosis from a wild pig. I mean, it can happen, but it's not terribly common. Sure. And that's really it's more of an issue you get with processing the pig than I guess if you made pig sushi, but that's weird.
Absolutely.
But if you're doing that, you have other problems.
Yeah, you're unsavable. Just do whatever you want.
How have you not died yet if you think that's a good idea?
What'd you right? That's hilljack behavior.
Well, we had a good pig hunting in California, by the way, too. Nothing like Texas, though. Like, I got to tell you a story. So I've hunted lots of pigs in California. So in California, it's a pig hunt. Like, it's a cool hunt to do because it's like a spot and stock deal. It's rolling hillsides, or like imagine like oak savanna. And, you spot them up, and then you hunt them, and you shoot one, and yay, everybody has fun. And it's cool because you can usually get it done in a day. So I come to Texas for this first pig hunt, and Larry from Coastal Wings is like, well, we do things a little different here. So first of all, he whips out the ARs with the night vision.
Hell yeah.
Sporty.
Yeah.
Like, oh, neato.
Right? And he's like, it's not as easy as you think, but aim for the pointy end of the pig.
Yep.
There's a pointy end and there's a rounded end, and
Right.
aim for the pointy end.
Yeah, very much.
Otherwise,
so.
your butcher will hate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get out there, and like the first field we roll up on, there's like a zillion freaking pigs in this thing. And, like a zillion. Like, I don't know. I mean, probably without exaggeration, probably 50, 60.
Oh.
And
Big old sounder.
And so we get in a line, and it's the 1, 2, 3 shoot. And fortunately, that one went real well because we had drilled in each other's heads. The first pig needs to die, and after that, you can just like.
That's our rule too. And if two of us are in a hunting blind, like a sounder comes in, it's like, all right, you start on the left, I start on the right. 1, 2, 3. After the first shot, free game.
Exactly.
Because you got to put the first one down. Afterwards, you're just slinging lead.
Yep.
We shot like 15 of that sounder.
Wow.
And like, okay, so are we done? Larry's like, oh no, we're just getting started.
Oh yeah, that's field one.
So Southeast Texas is like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, it's like I've never seen anything like it. I mean, just there were 10 sounders just like that same night.
Yeah.
It's madness. It's madness. It's
I mean, I think
nonstop.
I think people who like see, especially like the helicopter hog hunting and those and the thermals at night, and people just kind of, I think people get this idea that it's like, they kind of look out their door and they're like, well, it's not that bad here. How can it be that worse there until you see it and you're like, oh wow, this is this isn't even the area of tech. There's more ag in a lot of different places where it's even worse. Where there's hundreds of them in one location at one given time, and that's one little pinprick into
and they can do $100,000 of damage in the field at night.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
We have this little piece of property we talk about all the time. Access to it. It's our friend's family's property. Just hour and change from all of our houses, basically, east of Dallas, and it's piles of pigs. We have a trap we run out there. We shoot pigs out there, and you'll go out there run out there after work one day to fill a feeder, check a camera or something. Check, see if the trap got dropped or whatever. And everything looks normal. You come back, say you do that on Tuesday, you come back on Friday, and they've rototilled 3 acres of field. Like, what? And they don't do anything with this. They might let some people harvest some hay and this and that. So it's not catastrophic, quote, damage to them.
Crop damage.
Yeah, it's not crop damage, but it just overnight you can see it looks like you ran a disc through there.
Yep.
Madness. Just rooting for grubs and it's crazy.
So what's real interesting about the situation in California, because we've had pigs as long as you guys have had, because the Spaniards brought them.
Mm-hmm.
There are pig predators in California that don't exist in Texas.
Interesting.
So coyotes and bobcats will kill little stripy ones, and golden eagles will carry them off. That's hilarious.
Oh, that would be a sight to
rad.
see.
I've
That
seen a
would be
video
awesome.
of a golden eagle like carrying off a little stripy one. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golden eagles are tough, man.
Right?
Of course,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure
Giant.
the Mexicans.
I
have the right
mean,
eagle.
yeah, but I mean, like, just
Yeah.
Like the Mexican eagle's the golden eagle. That's a considerably more badass than the bald eagle.
oh yeah,
No question. No question.
like when you see them pick up like a goat and throw it off a mountain, you're
Chuck
just
it
like,
off
oh,
like,
shit.
yeah, it's dead now. I'll go eat it.
This thing's a savage.
Yeah. Savagery.
And then we have real lions.
Mhm.
We got buckets of mountain lions wandering around, and they love to eat pigs. So they're kept in check. I mean, there's still like an issue, and there's still no limit or season on them. But like I said, it's a hunt. It's not pest eradication, because they're these kind of it's not totally a natural balance, but they've got things to worry about where they don't in Texas.
Absolutely. We have a friend in who runs a business, Texas Hog Bait, and he creates attractants and baits and various things for the purpose of helping people pig hunt. And he said, with COVID, business is booming. People have been spending more time out there. We've used his products. We like it. It works. They're so much. We just talked about this recently. They're so much smarter than deer. They have better smell. Like a little bit of attractant, and when there's pigs in the area, you can get on top of them easy. There's just so many of them.
This whole COVID thing is going to be real interesting for the hunting season. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we were the whole nation was in lockdown in March and April, I heard that the turkey harvest in Alabama increased 100%.
I heard that also. Yeah. And then I know our friends at, speaking of turkey, our friends at National Wild Turkey Federation, they said they're struggling right now just because they're big
events.
They're big events, or they're money makers and this. And we helped out at events and we donated to events. We worked with them a lot, and there's nothing now. And they're everybody in Ducks Unlimited is doing these online auctions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
I actually just donated a hunt for Pheasants Forever. Actually, it's a fishing trip. So they did a big national auction, and I donated a fishing trip, and I cooked for everybody afterwards on Lake Michigan.
That's rad.
I don't know I don't know who won it yet, but that's going to be fun.
For sure.
But so, we talk about numbers. I kind of thought with all this going on, maybe less people will apply for Western hunts to save money.
Yeah,
and it was completely the opposite. I think, like you said, turkey harvest is up 100%. I think the amount of applications put in the West must have doubled by the same factor, because you want to talk about point creep. I bet it got worse this year real bad.
I am certain of it. I put in for 12 different things and got zippo.
Abe drew a cool hunt this year.
Yeah.
Oklahoma
so I did get
elk.
lucky in that regard. That so obviously being in Dallas, Oklahoma is just right up the road.
Mm-hmm.
So Austin and I, we've all talked about this for a long time. Hey, there's elk in Oklahoma, and man, would that be nice to be able to get an elk hunt that's
not 14 hours away,
and not 12,000 feet in the air, right?
Yeah.
And
a flatlander
I put in
hunt
for a very limited entry tag for Oklahoma elk and drew a tag. So I'm
super cool.
Excited about that.
It is.
There's nothing quite like the ability to shoot an elk quasi near your truck.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Oh yeah. Even if it's further,
that you can save
if it's
off
flatter,
that animal that you can't when you're I'm 10 miles from my camp, let alone the truck.
Yeah.
Exactly. Speaking of draw hunts, I don't know how people from out of state feel about Texas draw hunts because there's so much random stuff. Do you ever apply for anything in Texas? Do you know anybody who does?
I don't actually. It's not.
Sure.
I don't believe that that's a state on really anybody's radar in terms of draws.
I didn't think so, but nobody loves Texas more than Texas, so I'm like, oh yeah, we're applying for all this cool stuff, and
because there's no public land in Texas. So if I drew something, what do I do?
So a lot of these hunts are not necessarily public land. They're private land that's been leased out. There is a lot of national forests. There's a lot of WMAs. There's a good amount of public.
Well, not a lot, but there is.
I mean, the percentage is small, but the land is big. You've got a couple million acres. And I mean, for the size of Texas, that's a small percentage, but there's access. We all deer hunted public land for years.
Yep.
And dove hunted, we duck hunted clearly, religiously. We're all addicted is a mild word to duck hunting. There's opportunity, but a lot of this is leased back public and WMA with limited access during certain times. So my wife really wants to kill an alligator. I'd definitely like to kill an alligator too. So we're in for 10 alligator draw hunts this year. We don't draw, that's cool. We'll get some preference points. We got pronghorn antelope hunts in. There's exotics down on the coast at a WMA. They've got sandbar deer and axis. So there's some interesting stuff that's really cheap to apply for.
I'm actually, knock on wood, going to be down in Brownsville in the wintertime chasing nilgai.
Nice.
Yeah, I've shot a few nilgai down that way myself. I love it down there.
It's hilarious. The guys who are trying to set me up, they're all kind of hangdog because they talk to their contacts and they're like, oh yeah, it was totally going to make this happen. And then they come back to me like,
well,
didn't really make the bull happen because the guy's got these rich dudes from Dallas and they come down.
Oh yeah.
But if you wanted to kill a cow, I'm like, sold. Like,
Yeah,
I've seen nilgai. Their horns are not impressive.
No.
Like, this is not one of those deals where.
but their meat is.
Have
delicious.
you eaten nilgai?
So sad I can't kill I'm going to get. It's like shooting a cow, basically.
Yeah, shooting a horse.
Yeah.
Have you eaten nilgai?
Yes,
It's
have.
phenomenal. My wife's favorite meat.
I prefer axis, but I like nilgai.
Axis is delicious. I've never killed an axis. I've eaten other people's axis, so I don't have enough of an opinion yet. But
The coolest thing about
definitely on the
nilgai is
bucket
the same
list.
thing that's cool about elk or moose or any other of the really large game animals is the different cuts that you can get off it. And, like a classic case is you can get the whistlers off the trachea. So an animal that big, when you butcher a deer, there are these two long, they almost look like tenderloins, and they're right in front of the trachea. Now, they're not real big in a deer, but the larger the animal gets, the bigger those cuts get. So in, say, an elk, they're going to be about as long as your forearm, and there's going to be maybe at their widest point about as wide as your wrist. But the grain of that meat goes north-south. So when you cook that whole piece of meat whole, it's a little bit like the eye round.
Okay.
And then you cut it into medallions across the grain. It's almost like a free tenderloin.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking. Is a big tenderloin when you explain that.
and it works really well in these bigger animals. And the flat iron steak is another case where, unless you get a super bruiser deer, it's going to be a pretty small steak. But on a nilgai or on an elk or on a moose, it's a pretty legit steak.
Absolutely. We did.
What did you call that again?
A whistler.
They call them whistlers.
This is the first time I think in a
Abe's
podcast
scratching notes.
I've ever seen Abe actually take a note. And I don't know if you're on video, Hank, but like the look on Austin's face when you started describing this was just like a kid in a candy store. Like, yes. Yes.
I do a lot of cooking.
Yeah.
Nowhere near your caliber, but I very much enjoy being in the kitchen. I feel like I know a little bit. And we all keep necks and neck roasts and thoroughly enjoy them. But
You got to save the tongue off that elk if you get one.
I have two nilgai hunts this year. So now I'm gonna figure this out.
Tacos de lengua is a gift from God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
My wife's first lingua was nilgai lingua. I cooked at her apartment when we were dating.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's
Please
what
tell me you
Weiner.
peeled it.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good. Because otherwise it's the food that tastes you bad.
That's good. That's good. Let's rewind a tiny bit. We were talking about pigs. We're talking about parasites. Talking about trichinosis. Talking about the two different varieties. Deactivated by freezing. Wanting to get myself, others probably wanting to get into more curing charcuterie style with wild pig. Talk about that. I know that's something Jesse Griffith does.
I don't have a problem with it because you have to remember that the charcuterie process is 2,000 years plus old.
Sure.
And until very recently, there was trichinosis, trichini spiralis, in the American pork supply.
Mm-hmm.
Up until about the mid 80s, and it's been eradicated for the most part out of the domestic pork supply.
Yeah.
So it's always been an issue. Well, what they found out is that with a certain salt percentage and a certain amount of time, again, it deactivates it. So with domesticated pork, I would probably go a little bit closer to 2% salt by weight plus the curing salt, and that's a quarter of 1%.
Sure.
So it's a little bit, it's on the light side for salt curing, but it makes a nice product. Now with a wild pig, I'm probably going to go to 2.5% salt plus the curing salt. So it makes it a bit saltier, but it's your insurance policy.
Sure.
Because, I mean, after all, you don't actually cook a salami. It's just been cured and dry aged. So that extra 0.5% of salt is your insurance policy against that sort of thing. And you don't need to freeze that first, although it's not a bad idea, because if you think about dry curing any kind of meat, the ultimate goal of that is to lose moisture. So the freezing process gives you a jump start on that. So,
yeah.
And, for the listeners out there who don't know, when you freeze anything, unless you have a blast freezer, the cells in that meat will burst slightly because the ice, as you know, is larger than water. And so the water in those cells breaks the cell membranes. And so the slower that happens, the bigger the ice crystals happens, which is why a blast freezer, which could be 40 to 100 below zero from Fahrenheit, is so fast that the ice crystals don't really get a chance to get very big, which is why blast frozen fish from Alaska is arguably better than fresh. So, but in a normal freezer, those ice crystals are going to be fairly big. And so then when you thaw that meat out, that weeping, it looks like blood, that's just cellular fluid that's been weeping out because all of the cell walls have broken, which I don't know if you knew that, but that's the deal when you've got like steak or duck or whatever, eating fish. Sure. But if you're curing it, well, there's some moisture you've already lost.
Yeah, expedites the process a bit. Hello?
Yep.
Okay, got real quiet. So, have you what have you done as far as curing charcuterie style with wild pig? Anything?
Yeah, everything.
I
mean, you
assume
name
as
it,
much.
I've done it.
What's your favorite to do then?
With wild pigs?
Yes, because I want to try this. Tell me what I should start with.
Oh, okay. So those are two different questions.
Yeah. No. Then let's do both. Start with.
Yeah. So what I like to do is full on salami.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy Italian salumi would be how they would say. Yeah. Charcuterie is a French word. But to start with, I would do lonzino.
Okay.
So lonzino is cured loin, and it's supposed to be fat free, so it works really well with a wild pig. And it's basically you weigh out a length of wild pig loin that's been nicely trimmed, and you weigh out 2.5% by salt plus the 0.25% of the insecure number 2. You need
number 2. So
insecure number 1 is for like corning beef and smoking things. Insecure number 2 is for long curing, and that's sodium nitrate, not nitrite. Mm-hmm. And because sodium nitrate is like a time release pill, right? Mm-hmm. So it breaks down into sodium nitrite over time, so it provides a level of protection for that meat over time that you don't need when you're doing for smoked meat. So it's that salt percentage, and you could hang it with a spice rub on the outside or not. It's up to you. And then you just truss it and hang it for 3 weeks, a month, in usually somewhere around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. You can go a little lower. Don't go higher than 60. And then once it loses a quarter to a third of its weight, what I then do is, because you get a thing called case hardening, and the outside of any dry cured anything, whether it's a ham or salami or that loin that we're talking about, whenever that happens, the outside tends to dry a little faster than the inside. It all depends on the humidity inside your chamber, which needs to be pretty high. So a way to even that out and to fix it is to vacuum seal the finished product. And it's called vac vacation. And you vac seal the finished product, and you put it in your refrigerator for a week or so. And what that under pressure in the vacuum seal, it redistributes the moisture in the meat so that you don't have that hard ring around the outside of it. You'll see on social media, lots of people will show pictures of their cured products, and you'll sometimes see a dark ring around the outside of it. And that's case hardening, and that's bad. You want to fix that.
So before you put it in the curing chamber, you're rubbing it with your salt and your number 2?
Yes.
Or you're
So you mix this. You mix the regular salt. I always use just Diamond Crystal Kosher, and then the curing salt. You mix that together, and then you basically massage your meat.
rub.
You can get worse. You can talk about eating a salami. Hey-o.
Vigorously.
And whatever leftover salt that the meat didn't take up, you put it in a vacuum seal bag, and then you vacuum seal it and put it in the fridge for however long you need to. Depends on the size.
Until it's fully absorbed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That vacuum sealing
Sure.
while it's curing in the fridge, it's called an EQ cure, equalization. And so the beauty of that particular kind of cure, by measuring that salt really, really finely, is you will not oversalt your meat. When I first started doing this 15 years ago, I would just use X amount of salt, and that seemed about right. And like sometimes it would be just too salty, and I'd be sad. But getting an exact amount of salt in close contact with the meat in this vacuum seal process helps us a lot. Gives you the proper amount of salt so that it's safe, it tastes good, and it's not too salty. So
you take your pork loin, trim it up nice, weigh it, 2.5%, kosher salt, your 0.25%, number 2, herb spices.
No herb spices yet.
Okay.
So you cure it just with the salt. You could do sugar too. You can add some sugar, and that's less technical. You could add an equal amount of sugar to salt. That's a common thing.
Sure. Yeah. You see that in brines. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you throw all that. All of that goes on the meat, and then you vacuum seal the meat and you let it sit in the fridge for a week. Mm-hmm. Then, if you do want to do the herbs and spices, you take the meat out of the vacuum seal, rinse it off real quick, and then you roll it in whatever herbs and spices you like. And then you either put it in sausage netting or you truss it, and then you hang it in a cool, humid place until it dries out.
And you said 1/4 to 1/3 by weight of.
Typically, yeah. There's a little bit of finesse in there. I mean, some people like it closer to 1/4. Some people like it closer to 1/3. And if you go by half, you're getting into like jerky. Now there is a save if you forget about it. Asking how I know. You can then treat it like dashi, which is really super cool. So you know what Japanese dashi is?
Yes. But go ahead and explain.
Fermented and hard cured bonito that they shave. It's so hard they have to shave it. Well, you can do that with pork or venison too, and it's amazing.
And it adds a lot of like umami to things, correct?
Correct.
That's what you use it for?
Yep.
I'm just trying to really clarify for anybody listening, who's just like, what are you talking about?
Grinch right now is super happy.
Yeah, I'm into all this. So if you over dry, just keep going and turn it into wild pig dashi.
Yeah, like so if it gets away from you and it's lost like 50% of its moisture and its weight, and you're like, can't really save that. Screw it. Go all the way until it's completely hardened.
Just keep it rolling.
Yep. And then when you can use it as a means to fend off burglars, that's when you can shave it.
So it's
got to be pretty rock hard.
A couple years ago, I had a bunch of pig, cut it real thin, and made some pig jerky, and finished it real quick in the oven to try to hit temp. And not understanding then trichinosis and salt and everything, right? And I over dried a bunch of it. I was like, I don't want to throw it away, so I crumbled it up and shaved it really fine and used it as a topping on some deviled eggs and other things. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's you basically just made Sonoran machaca.
Okay.
Like,
so that's kind of a thing.
Mexico.
I did it by accident, not wanting to waste a dead animal.
Yeah, like they do with deer and beef in Sonora and Arizona and the desert part of Mexico, like Chihuahua. The desert part of Mexico, they use this basically jerky they beat the hell out of it, so it's like all fibrous and fluffy, and then it's amazing and like that's the breakfast burrito you want.
Nice.
Like, to hell with the bacon, you want a machaca burrito.
No doubt.
Grinch, make this happen.
Really
Oh, I got this. Don't worry. I got pig in the freezer right now.
I was going to say, can we get those for the duck blind?
We can. We have time to get this done before duck season.
Yes.
So yeah, let's say you did it correctly, quarter to a third by weight. You get it out, and I mean you're pretty much done. You slice.
You could, what I would do is I would slice it and see what your case hardening looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to be there.
Sure.
And so enjoy a couple of slices and then vacuum seal it and let it sit in the fridge for another week. And if you make a lot so that you can't eat it, make a big batch, just keep them in the vac sealed. There's no harm in keeping them in the vacuum sealed in the fridge for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks.
So just keep it in the fridge, not the freezer? Doesn't matter?
I would keep it in the fridge, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, if it's going to be like a year, put it in the fridge.
Sure.
But I mean, it'll keep for several months in the fridge.
Sweet.
So let's talk about curing chambers. I have a fridge that I installed. I put a couple controllers in, a humidity controller and a temp controller. And there's a fan to move air. The humidity controllers in Dallas it's pretty humid, so we never really bumped super low humidity in there, but I've got a cool mist humidifier to kick on when needed. And the temperature controller just basically cycles the compressor to keep it at temp. I've aged a lot of deer, aged a lot of ducks. How do you feel about that setup?
I think it sounds good. I mean, can you tell what temperature and what humidity?
Yeah, it's a little. What are they? They're little controllers. I mean, you have to wire them yourself. They're just.
But they have a display that says.
Yeah, they have readouts.
As long as you can be between. You don't ever want to be lower than 65% humidity.
Yeah, I mean, no, you can keep these things within a couple percent humidity and a degree or less.
Oh, perfect. So, you know what? Vaguely around 75%. A little higher when the meat first comes in and a little lower as it ages. And then I like 50 degrees. Some people like 45, some people like 55, but 50 is a happy medium. Because it doesn't have to be refrigerator. It's not going to hurt it if it's 40, but it will hurt it if it's below 40 because you're talking about a process here that really cold temperatures is going to slow if not stop. So there has to be enough warmth to get microbial activity. But bad microbes really dig 60 degrees and above. Good microbes like between 40 and 60.
So I've been aging venison. Pretty cool because I was always worried about it.
That's different. That's entirely different.
So let's clarify. We're just talking about curing for salumi and such.
Yes, but if you're making
50,
hams
you like
or
50.
if you're whole muscle or salami, yes, that's the temperature. Or if you're hanging birds for that matter.
Sure.
But if you're hanging red meat,
you hang your birds pretty warm, or?
Yeah, I hang them at 50 degrees.
Noted. All right.
Holding in the feathers too.
Yep.
Oh yeah, right there with you. People think that's great.
Red meat, yes.
Do you hang them by the foot?
36.
Or do you put them on their back?
Lay them breast up. Keep the fluids off, in my opinion. Hank, what's your opinion?
There's zero scientific evidence for head or feet being better. I tend to hang them by their necks.
Okay.
I lay ours on racks, breast up. I mean, stainless racks in there. You think that's okay?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was definitely a game changer.
Yeah, that's made such a big difference in waterfowl. Oh my gosh.
So waterfowl is one thing. So it's nice with water. It's great with skinny birds. Like if you've got migrating ducks that aren't real fat, it's a really good option.
Yeah, by the time we get to Texas, they're Ivy League skinny ducks.
Yeah, because we don't really age our ducks very much anymore because our ducks are morbidly obese. I mean, I kid you not, I have rendered at least a half a cup of pure sweet duck lard out of one pintail.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you look at my Instagram feed, every duck season I'll show like, oh my God, look at this fat ass.
That's so awesome.
Fat bottom girls playing.
Yeah, there is nothing better than pintail the fat ass.
So that bird is not a candidate for long aging because that fat's going to go off.
Absolutely. No, ours are super thin layers of fat.
Yeah.
Super thin.
Pheasants, on the other hand, really, 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 really need to be hung. Like even if you go to a pet and shoot where it's a, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, your limit's 3 birds, so let's go shoot your 3 birds, and there's definitely no cages anywhere.
Yeah. So if you go to a pet and shoot, even those birds need 3 days. But if you got a real wild pheasant, like if you're in Nebraska or the Dakotas, you know, I've seen people age them for 8 days, which I think is on the high side, but 5 to 6 is pretty normal.
Noted.
The difference is, like, if you're listening to this and you're reacting in horror, the difference is it's because you're aging at a cool temperature, and because these birds are not huge. Like, you can't do this to a turkey. If you age a turkey, you have to gut it first. They lose heat quickly enough, and you're keeping the temperature low enough where you have this microbial process in the safe zone, and it's the same kind of controlled rot that wine and cheese is.
For sure.
Yeah. Where, you know, queso fresco is fine, but like a 2-year-old cheddar is way better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same process. You know, it operates at a higher temperature with birds than it does with red meat.
All right. So we've been doing things halfway right, at least, it sounds like, from a professional.
and that's basically what we are.
Stormwater Creek way.
Yeah, halfway
right.
So
safety third.
Yeah, exactly. Safety third.
So you get us.
Safety is no accident. So now we've covered, you know, really, you know, top level, some basic curing, and I have a couple of your books. Do you cover in-depth curing of this sort in any of your books for the listeners?
Yes. It's mostly in buck moose, mm-hmm. because I do more curing like this with antlered things, mm-hmm. like you know, deer and pronghorn and moose and elk and such. But there are curing sections in all of my books. I do a lot of cured meats with ducks, so Duck Goose has a whole section of it too.
Yep, duck pastrami is one.
There's even a little bit of a curing section with pheasant quail cotton.
Gotcha.
And your book names are fantastic, by the way.
Yeah. Everybody's waiting to see what the fish and seafood.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and I didn't know if it was going to be a thing.
I bet he didn't tell us.
Yeah.
You are correct.
It's like somebody. It's like you know the. Sex
what if I say
baby.
please?
We don't want to know until it's born, right?
No, I'm going to announce it when the book is available for pre-order, which will be the fall.
Awesome. We will be on that list.
Yes.
So we've covered some really basic curing. There's plenty more info.
I have one question about curing that I wanted to ask real fast, which was, you know, so on one end of the spectrum, you have kind of more of more of an advanced chamber, like what Austin has. What about just using like an old refrigerator? Does that work? I mean, are there things
it does.
Just things to watch out for in that scenario, kind of on that end of the spectrum, if you will?
Sure. So if you're going to use an old fridge, which I do all the time, there's a thing you can buy on Amazon that it's a temperature and humidity regulator, and it might cost $100 now, but it was $75 when I bought it. So I can't remember the exact name of it, but I'm terrible with that kind of stuff. But it's a regulator of temperature and humidity. So it plugs into the wall. The refrigerator plugs into it, and it has another outlet that is for a humidifier that you put into the old fridge. And you can dial up what you want. Now, it's not quite as accurate. It's within 4 or 5 degrees. So I would set it on the low end, like 50. And so if it goes 55, it's not a big deal. Or even 48, and so you got a little bit of leeway. Yeah. And then your humidity. Now, the only problem with that is your humidifier, you got to kind of check in on it every now and again. So there's a trick. So when you're using an old fridge like that, you've got your setup, and it's going good. Set it at the low end, like 48, and put your beer in it. So here's walk with me for a second. So you got your beer in this outside fridge, and you got all your meat hanging in it, and it's a good temperature. Well, the one thing that cured meat needs is air circulation. So some people, will put a fan in their curing fridge, and so that's all well and good. But if you've got beer in the fridge, you're constantly opening the fridge door, drinking beer, so that every time you open the fridge door, it exchanges the air in the old fridge, and you don't get as much nasty mold. See?
Boom! I'm
all right.
blown.
I never thought about that.
That makes a lot of sense.
I jumped up for a second. So you were asking about curing or dry aging, Abe?
Yeah, just using a kind of a like you have, like I said, from
The
a
old
standpoint of what
fridge.
your system
Sure.
is a little bit more advanced than what mine is, where it's just a fridge. What you can kind of use
We can rig you up for $50, but
But
we'll get that done later. So that's a perfect segue into what I was going to ask next. We've kind of covered base level curing. Now let's talk about dry aging.
Okay.
I kind of said a second ago, a little lower temperature. We said, got some humidity control. We have some temperature control. We got some air movement. Talk to us about that, and then I have a few things I want to ask.
Sure. So, number one, you do not need to dry age young things.
Okay.
So, little pigs, button bucks, young does, those kinds of things, you don't get a lot of benefit out of it.
Let me interrupt real quick. Dry aging pig. I mean, we just discussed it's safe, it's fine, whatever. Things. The trichinosis cooks out this and that. But we kill plenty of pigs. There's never a shortage of pig meat. Would you dry age wild pig every time?
Maybe.
Maybe.
So,
then let's talk about dry aging pig real quick, and then we'll jump back into it. Sorry.
The second most important thing about any dry aging is you only dry age things that you want to cook medium rare or medium.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the case of a pig, if I wanted to cook, say, a hind leg fresh ham, like not a cured pig roast, like a back leg, and I wanted to cure it to an internal temperature of about 145, 150 maybe, so it's like medium well, so it's just barely pink inside, but it's still fully cooked, because I don't really want to take pig lower than that because it's still pig.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd consider dry aging that.
I'm gonna have to give that a try.
Really, dry aging comes into it's you really dry age because you want a better tasting red meat.
For sure, antlered things more applicable.
Typically, or ducks.
Yeah.
So let's start with antlered things. So you're really only dry aging the back of the animal. There is zero reason to dry age the front of the animal because you're going to cook it slow and low.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, if you're going to, you guys are Texans, right? So you're going to have a lot of deer, chances are, like more than one. So one good way, it all depends on what you want to do, but one good way to dry age backstrap is leave it on the spine. So what I will do, if I'm going to do that, is I am going to cut the whole backstrap with a sawzall or with shears or whatever, depending on how big the animal is. So you've got the whole backstrap sitting on the spine. Now, this does not include the tenderloin. Don't age tenderloins. And so it's like, as long as it's on the bone, you can then dry age it. If you don't dry age it on the bone, you're going to have so much loss from not only moisture, but from removing the rind that's on it. It just doesn't make it worth it. So that's how you dry age pretty much any loin, unless you're starting to get to like nail guy or moose or an actual cow or something like that. It doesn't really matter as much.
I've never dry aged a backstrap.
Really where you want to dry age.
All right, definitely on the list. We'll
do
that this year.
Remove the shank because there's zero reason to dry age the shank on the back leg.
For sure.
Just dry age those big haunches, right? So that's perfect, right? Because it's a big old piece of meat. You're not going to worry about losing a little bit of rind on the outside. Keep the silver skin on it, by the way. And that's where dry aging really shines, is where you can make a legit awesome steak out of a whole muscle hind leg roast that's been aged for 2 weeks or 3 or 4.
So what's the maximum you go on something like that?
Me, 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks on the outside, but 3 weeks is generally considered by most meat-eating humans to be the optimum aging time. You can't really even tell any effects from dry aging until you get to about 10 days.
Sure. All right. Let's talk about temperature and humidity.
Low, like 34, 36.
Yep. That's kind of exactly what I was running. Just a scotch above freezing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you need it to be reasonably humid because otherwise your rind gets really.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the same thing we just talked about case hardening with salami and with the loin. Well, yeah, if you've got your big hind leg, say of a nilgai or a big deer, sitting dry aging, right, and it's too dry in your wherever it is that you're doing this, you're going to get this rind on the outside that can rot the inside of the meat because if it's too dry, that rind can get so hard that it prevents any more moisture from coming out of the meat, and so it kind of rots from within.
Okay.
And I've seen that happen, and it's gross.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things you can do. If wherever it is that you're dry aging is not naturally humid, you can put a pan of salted water underneath it, and you put salt in the water just to slow down mold. That works real well. Obviously, you have to refill it because it will evaporate over time. You can also, if you're doing the beer fridge thing, put a little spray bottle of water in with the beer, and whenever you grab a beer, go and just spray the meat and walk that, and then you're good to go.
All right. So I had a dry aging debacle last year. I think I overloaded my fridge, and 24 hours in, I think 36 hours in, open a check on it, and I'm sticky, and I know that was bad. And because I'd done it before, and it smelled funny, so we were done with that. What happened there? Hard to say from the other side of the country.
I mean, it's too humid. So yeah, you put a lot of meat in there,
Sure.
And it got a little too humid. But keep in mind, have you ever seen really good dry aged beef before it's been trimmed?
Yes.
It's disgusting.
It is.
It's revolting. It's like, this is not food. And then you cut the rind off, and you're like, oh,
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, yep.
So, it's gonna smell,
but
it's gonna smell like cheesy funky. It shouldn't smell like ugh.
And that's it. I knew the smell because I dry aged venison prior, and it just weirded me out. It didn't hit right.
So what I would do?
Did I overthink it? I mean, I guess we're talking in he said, she said, right?
It's hindsight too.
Exactly,
so
hindsight.
One thing that I would have done is I would have just removed about 50% of the meat out of that chamber, and then the things would right itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like these processes don't it's not going to be ruined overnight. You can. It's a journey, right? It's a marathon. So you've got moments where it's leaning this way, it's leaning that way, unless you're a true expert where you can control everything every single day.
Sure.
And if you're that much of a control freak, you probably should see somebody.
Grinch is sitting beside me.
It's gonna get mold. That's the other thing. Like really good dry aged beef or any meat, it's got mold on it. What you don't want is black mold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you let it stay too humid, it could get black mold.
Okay. So maybe I jumped the gun on that, but it is what it is. Hey,
have you lost meat before dry aging it? I mean, where was that line for you? If you've had it happen in the past, where was that line where you're like, this is
the first speck of black mold?
Yeah,
you get the first speck of black mold. I pull it out, cut it away, and then stop the process right there. Because the whole piece of meat's not ruined. It's just I would cut away that piece.
Okay.
And then just
good to know.
Yeah.
Something I'd heard people talk about and I read a tiny bit about was spritzing the exterior with like a citric acid to knock down the bacteria on it. Is that overkill? What do you think? What are your opinions on that?
I've never done it, but I've heard it. I've heard that too, and I'll be honest. I've not tried it, and I have not tried the koji thing either. And people swear by it.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And I've got a buddy who he owns a brew pub, and he's been experimenting with sake brewing, and he has koji. And he'd mentioned like koji aging because he knows I dry aged venison and whatever else I can get my hands on. And this year I might try that.
So if you do, my advice would be to buy Jeremy Umansky's book. It's called The Koji Academy. And he's a friend of mine, and he's he's crazy about this stuff.
Jeremy,
He's
how do you
very
spell his
good
last
at it.
name?
I am not. So his book would give you better advice than I could.
Jeremy, what again?
Umansky,
Yep, there it is.
Umansky.
Koji Alchemy.
Koji Academy. But Koji Alchemy.
There's Koji Alchemy, rediscovering the magic of mold-based fermentation.
I think so.
Black book.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Noted in my Amazon cart.
It's on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Done.
So, all right. Well, that's
A
some
drone will deliver it before the end of this podcast.
Oh yeah, this creeps me out.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Well, man, that's awesome. Just, base level curing, dry aging, the difference between the two, some temperatures. Let's shift into a little bit more, quote, normal cooking. So, Abe and I have been talking. I don't want to say we have excess meat right now, but we're about to roll into deer season. We have a lot of hunts planned and a lot of hoping to be very successful hunts. So we want to do a touch of a freezer clean out, or maybe even more of a freezer conversion into tamales. I'm fine with cooking down pork. I'm fine with cooking down any sort of antlered wildlife into a shredded meat for tamale filling. We've got some duck. I want to make duck tamales. I've been reading because obviously we all know you overcook duck and it turns into bad liver. If you were to approach a duck tamale, how would you cook the meat?
Well, it sounds like your conundrum is because you breast out ducks.
We correct. We breast out most of our ducks this year. Kept a couple whole, but most of them were breasted out. Correct. Because
so this is your problem.
We didn't get a ton of giant ducks.
If you want to make good duck tamales, you need the legs. Good duck tamales are made from legs and wings. Same with geese. That's like period end of story.
Noted.
Like
Good
I would not make tamales out of duck breasts.
Noted.
Just not.
I've got a few
So what I would
that
do
have
if you've
legs
got
on them, but
ass loads of duck breasts is I would, if you've got that many, I would grind it and use it as ground meat. Or, because ground meat, there's a billion,
Sure.
applications
Yeah.
for it. I just did a recipe for Chinese dan dan noodles where there's this one version that's done with ground beef in Sichuan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ground sea duck worked just as well.
Wow.
And it was amazing.
okay.
So once you have it kind of ground up like that, you can do anything with it. And then now that's the other thing is you can make jerky out of duck breasts by cutting them, lengthwise, so that it's the same shape as it was, but it's just thinner. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you can do that. And then one pro tip if you're going to make duck breast jerky is put it between two pieces of plastic and beat the hell out of it to make it even thinner. It also makes it less tough.
Okay.
I have a duck jerky recipe on the website that works real well like that.
I'll give that a go.
Another one is make sausage.
Yeah, and it's
pork shoulder and duck breasts, and it makes fantastic sausage.
Well, I mean, we're definitely comfortable cooking, eating duck breasts. We have just looking to kind of shift gears a little bit, and I do have some breasts that I've breasted out with a leg attached. Kind of that direction. So we've got a few legs, probably not enough to matter. In the future, we'll probably keep some wings now. We'll definitely give this a go next season, but that's good advice. And
my favorite thing to do for waterfowl tamales are goose legs.
Yeah, when
DFW
is not a goose hunting mecca,
by far
unfortunately.
Oklahoma's got tons of them.
Correct.
The other thing we want to try is we went on a sandhill crane hunt, and we have a bunch of thighs.
Perfect. You make tamales out of them.
Yep, that was the plan. And I felt like those will cook down very easily. We got a lot of fat with them. Based on every other way I've cooked sandhill crane, I'm pretty comfortable with that, I think. But
turkey legs are good for tamales too.
I've got 2 of those. So yeah,
there's no law that says it has to be a single varietal tamale.
No. We wanted to experiment, but
get all your duck legs and crane legs and turkey legs and just
throw them in a pile.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, we the only reason we were kind of keeping it single varietal, single barrel, right? Was just to kind of be able to taste through them.
Yeah.
Like
You're
for
not,
no other
you're
reason
not
than fun.
Really going to taste it. I mean, because it's
Probably all
you
the
shred
masa
meat,
and business.
The meat's going to be sauce, and it's going to be in the center of a tamale.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's why we
By the
ask
way,
these
just
questions.
so you know, it's a tamal, and many of them are tamales.
Oh, it's like
It's not one
Okay.
tamale; it's a tamal.
I'm all.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
This drives my Spanish-speaking friends batty when they hear English speakers go, "It's a tamale." Like, it's not a tamale; it's a tamal.
You know what's funny though is that
Tamale.
Texas, so close to Mexico, very, very, influenced by it. Nobody knows that.
Yeah, there's like.
Oh, I bet they do in
sure.
Brownsville.
Well, I don't know. I've
would
spent
know.
some time down there.
McAllen.
Or maybe they just ignored me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think most of my Spanish speaking friends, just don't care because they haven't said anything.
Yeah.
For
Or they
sure.
just swallow
They're
their
dying just a little bit inside.
good.
Yeah, it's like this gringo, this gringo.
This
Pinche
gringo,
güero.
yeah.
Pincho Wedo.
I mean, I've got a couple more notes. Hank, what is it? What else do you want to talk about? I mean, like we said, I know you probably get on a lot of podcasts and want to run the standard gamut. Everybody does the story and the cookbooks. What's fun? What do you like to talk about?
I don't know. It just depends on the day. I mean, it's summertime now, so summertime I'm always fishing.
Yeah, I saw yesterday, today you were posting that rockfish you caught and steamed and the sizzling chili sauce. Was that recently correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's going on with so my existence is completely dedicated to the rhythms of whatever it is that's going on at that time, and I think it's a kind of a cool way to live in the sense that, if it's duck season, we have pretty much a duck-based diet. If it's in the summertime, we're eating fish 3, 4, 5 times a week, and the berries show up, and we use them, and then there's the garden, and it's kind of a cool thing that you can do no matter really where you live, because even when you live up north and you get cold, long winters, one of the more fun things about living up there, and I've lived up there, is you are constantly thinking about how you can preserve X or Y for those cold, horrible months in the winter, where there's nothing growing and it's so cold and it's after hunting season, and you don't really have to worry about that so much in Texas or in California. But I think one of the great bits of fun in hunting and fishing and gathering wild things is, how am I going to preserve this so that I can have fun with it later? And it really sends you down all kinds of weird rabbit holes. Like we talked about curing, and you can cure fish, and you can cure birds, and you can cure red meat, and you can, I've taken redfish from Galveston of all things, and I've salted it down like they do codfish in Newfoundland, and it works great. You basically have a rock hard salted piece of redfish that doesn't look edible, but it lasts literally forever. I think I rehydrated a piece that had been vacuum sealed in the refrigerator for 3 years. In the refrigerator, vacuum sealed. And it was perfectly fine. Because, it was rock hard and salted. And, like, just those cool revelations of, like, wow, those pickles are 3 years old and they're perfectly good. Because we're so taught to be scared of food in this country.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
That when you look at the old ways, in this country and all the other countries.
Go back to your roots.
Yeah. And you look at other people's roots. You're like, oh, really? Nobody died doing that.
Exactly.
And here's a great case. We talk about ducks a lot in this podcast. Duck confit.
Mm-hmm.
So duck confit, it was invented by the Romans, but the French kind of perfected it. And it's basically, in its original form, a way to preserve ducks for the winter. So you salt down duck legs. The French will confit the whole bird. Like, they'll have breasts, wings, everything. So you salt down the duck, and for 2 days, you want it pretty darn salty. And then you cook it very slowly in its own fat until it's tender. And then what they do is they will take either a crockery jar or a glass jar, and they'll lay down some duck fat, some melted duck fat, in the bottom of the jar, and then let it set. And then they put the duck in the jar, the already done cooked duck, and then they completely cover it and make sure it's completely coated and covered with more duck fat. And then they put the lid on it, and they just stick it in the basement. No refrigerating necessary. I mean, of course, it's probably in the 50s down there in the basement. But they didn't even want to eat it until it was a couple months old. Like, because it had to, what they said, it had to ripen. And I've done this, and it's an entirely different product than you would get, say, if you order duck confit at a restaurant.
Absolutely.
And it's better. Like, I've had, Korean kimchi that I made with wild onions. By the way, there's excellent wild onions in Texas. And I made sort of wild onion kimchi, this kind of the standard way. And I let it sit in the fridge for a year. It's perfectly good. And in fact, it was better. And it was so good that I have a Korean American friend who's like, oh, it's like my grandma makes. And so I'm super excited about like figuring out what are the boundaries and what are these things that you can do that create these different flavors that Americans especially are just not used to.
Yeah,
For sure.
for sure.
So, outside of the curing and the dry aging, my paycheck is in the alcohol industry, and I last year I went down a rabbit hole of aging eggnog.
Oh yeah.
And I've got a bottle in the fridge right now that we're rolling into a year. And I take a pull off it every so often, and it's just gotten better. And people,
Right?
my wife included, think I'm crazy. I'm like, no, this is fine. I use higher proof booze and the ratio, and it's awesome. So I think that's kind of the same deal.
It really is.
That thing, that didn't originate when there was on-demand
Refrigerators.
ice
Yeah.
boxes. Even, and I use the word icebox as icebox, not refrigerator.
Right?
It's there people figured it out, and that's super cool to me. I'm right there with
And yeah,
you.
you find all these old lost flavors and things like, well, I mean, same deal as the eggnog.
A little bit of funk.
Well, fruitcakes are normally made in like October
Aged,
and
yep,
eaten at Christmas.
for sure.
I actually had a good fruitcake once.
How old was it?
And my sister made it. It was a couple months old, and it was really old English recipe. And
That's awesome.
so, like, the whole thing about English food sucking, by the way, is entirely because of the Second World War. So
Because the English
Ruined
suck.
it destroyed the culture or the recipes.
the First World War and the Second World War, that 1-2 punch really, really, really put the wood to English food culture because of all the rationing and the shortages. So they didn't really get back to it until the 80s. And so, like, if you go to England now, there's quite good food.
Kind of like American beer.
Exactly.
There's a lot of garbage American beer right now, but
Still.
that's another rabbit hole to go down.
That's another
There's
one.
a lot of good. There's
It is.
There's
it is.
piles.
Although I have
There's
to admit,
piles
I'm
of
a
delicious
sucker
American
for,
beer.
I'm a sucker for Rainier and Oli and the Narragansett. Those old macro brews. There's one in San Antonio whose name escapes me.
Um,
Pearl.
yeah, Pearl. I mean,
Pearl.
man, I say it all the time. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is the benchmark for American Pale Ales. Change my mind. That's the one. A fresh Sierra Nevada in a can. Now, if they can them so it doesn't see light and sees less oxygen, that's a benchmark Pale Ale.
So, yes. The problem is this. The Sierra Nevada brewery, which is just up the road from me,
Sure.
uses the same damn yeast for every one of their beers, with the exception of their Hefeweizen.
Correct, and that's why that's the only one that matters to me.
Yes. So, like, they make a really good Hef,
Mhm.
and they make a good Goza called Otra Vez.
Correct. It's very good.
But other than those are the three beers that I'll drink from them. I won't drink any other IPAs because it's the exact same yeast that they use for their pale ale that we all know and love. And it's like, meh, boring.
For sure.
But yeah,
People don't understand. Like, you can use the same malt bill, pitch a different yeast, and you have 100% different beer. Like, people don't understand that.
yep.
So when you taste I could go down a laundry list of breweries whose beers aren't bad, but they all taste the same because they're pitching the same yeast. So
Yep.
you have the kind of same beer, but different.
Yeah, I've made a whole bunch of beers with wild ingredients, and that's a rabbit hole for sure.
I homebrewed for a while.
And you did some badass beers.
It was cool. At this point, if I got back into it, I would 100% go into just making weird meads.
Yep.
That's what
There's
I would do.
one beer that I need to make again because it's so good. It's called Junipine. It's juniper and one of the native pines that lives here in California, and it's a red ale that's super junipery and piney, and I love it a lot, and it ages really well. I've got like a couple bottles left that are a couple of years old, and they're still good.
That sounds
so it's that kind of like
interesting.
really trippy stuff that I miss. But like I'm never going to make a lager. Like why would I make a lager? You know,
It's
first
too
of all,
much
they're very
work.
difficult to make
I
at
can
home.
buy a delicious one. Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean like there's a brewery down the road from us called Trumer Pills
Yep.
that they're based in Czechoslovakia, but they're American breweries in Berkeley. That's all they do. They're continually making that one Pilsner, and it's
Truman
amazing.
Pills
Pilsner.
is a benchmark Pilsner.
Could you imagine working at that brewery? Be like, like
Over
For
and
sure.
Over and over again.
yeah, it's
So-
Definition of insanity, right?
yeah.
So next
making
time you're in
amazing.
Texas, A, I'd love to have a beer with you if that's possible, but B, in Austin, Texas, there's a brewery called ABGB, which is Austin Beer Garden Brewing.
Okay.
They focus on Pilsners, and in my mind, I mean, yes, Pilsners can be boring, but if you can produce a good Pilsner, you're a good brewer. Anybody can make a giant stout with 1,000,000% alcohol and barrel age it to hide all their screw-ups, or they can make a triple IPA and overhop it to hide their screw-ups. But if you can make a super badass Pilsner, that's talent. You can probably
it's the
do other
little
things.
actress of brewing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the ABGB,
Yeah, I get
They-
to Austin fairly frequently.
they
And
fo-
I
they
can
f-
100% guarantee you I will not only be in Austin, but I'll be in Dallas when the new book comes out.
Oh.
I would love to buy the book, get your signature, buy you a beer. But ABGB, Rocket Pilsner, it's won awards. Anytime I'm there, I bring Crowlers home. That is spot on Czech pills. I mean, a little bit of variation out of true to style, but I mean, that is sharp, crisp Pilsner. If you're into that. It's
I do.
very, very well done.
They're perfect for Texas too, because it's when it's hot and ugly out.
Exactly.
That's a big
You want yellow beer.
And my buddy who lives in Mobile calls August in the Gulf the warm blanket of hate.
It's been so hot of late. It's just it's just making me want duck season to happen so much more, just so it's not bitterly hot and miserable.
We're coming out of like 8 days of 100 in a row.
Yep.
here,
Yeah.
so.
We're getting back into ours. We had some rain. It dropped a little bit, so now I think we're back for our next stint of that.
What is this rain of which you speak?
Yeah.
Man, I wish we had more here. Talking to or my cohorts / coworkers in Houston. Oh man, it rained all week, and it was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, well, it was until it stopped raining. Then it started steaming because it's Houston. I was like, good point. Keep your rain.
Oh my God! Like the food scene in Houston is so amazing.
It's awesome.
But the weather in Houston is so not amazing.
Build a city in a
It's the
swamp, they
worst.
said. It'll be
Yeah.
fun, they said.
If
Yeah.
you have to build your city and make sure that you have drains everywhere so you can get the water out, it's not really a
Well,
good
bit
city.
swampy.
Ugh,
Bit
makes
mushy.
New Orleans look nice.
Yeah. It's getting that way.
So my mom is about as Yankee as you can possibly get. She's from right outside of Gloucester, Massachusetts. So this is how I come by fishing, honestly. And she's super, super New England, right? And she will always say that there is no such thing as bad weather, only improper clothing. And I believed this until I went to New Orleans in August.
Exactly. You can only
And I'm
take
like,
off
you could
so
be
many
butt
clothes.
slapping naked, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is unpleasant. No matter, there is no proper clothing for that.
No. The
Mm-mm.
proper clothing for New Orleans in August is air conditioning.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not New
Indoors.
Orleans in August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But if you're there, like zero cotton on your body.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
No
I'm
cotton.
pretty
gosh.
sure they invented seersucker for New Orleans.
For
Oh,
sure.
you got to
No
imagine.
doubt. Let's go over a couple more things before we kind of start wrapping this up.
Okay.
So you're in the kitchen. I know you've always said, and everyone agrees, you need two knives. You need a big knife. You need a small knife. I know you like fine strainers to clarify things and all of that. I also really enjoy Alton Brown's cooking and cookbooks and stuff for what they are.
Me too.
He hates single-use kitchen gadgets.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that to a point,
Monotaskers.
but there are always certain things. Like it's like a toolbox in your garage. Somebody's like, "What's that?" I'm like, well, it's for this. You use it once a year, but you need it once a year. What's some random, unique kitchen things that you use? Some pro tips? I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying?
Clam knife.
Clam knife. Yeah, it's not applicable in Texas.
Clam knife is pretty single use. So it's a piece of wood that you hold onto that has a sort of a semi-blunt blade-looking thing on the end of it, and it's used to just jam open clams.
I've
So that's
shucked a
pretty-
lot of oysters.
Different from an oyster knife. An
Oh,
oyster
is it?
Knife has a little bit of a blade to it.
Okay.
So it's so that's pretty good single use. Here's a good one that's really chefy too. I have 3 different microplane graters.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
one that is only for nutmeg.
It taints it.
It's just it's designed to grind nutmeg, and it's like that's it's what you're talking about. It's that single use thing that I don't use very often, but when I need it, I
You
need
need it. For sure. What other, any other random things like that? Any other small pro tips? Like, hey, everybody says do this, don't do that.
Let's see. Here's a thing here's just a general cooking thing. If you are into Wildgame, there's a real good chance that you are, especially, right at the beginning of this, we were talking about people, I don't like duck, it tastes like liver.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they've cooked a tender part too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's endemic in the game world. They cook
Very much
backstrap or pheasant breast or quail breast or duck breast too much. And you can't eat wild turkey legs. Oh, you can't eat a deer neck, blah, blah, blah. It's because they're cooking that too little. So the single most important, there's 2 most important things I can relate to anyone listening to this. Number 1, you can always cook it more. It's pretty hard to cook it less. Like if you overcook it, you can't uncook it. Sorry, man. But you can always cook something a bit more. And the other is, if you're going to make a mistake on anything tender, backstrap, breast meat, that sort of thing, err on undercooking it.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to make a mistake on anything on the front of an animal, wings, legs, shanks, shoulder, neck, cook it more. Like, how did I overcook it? Well, unless you really hammered it for like 12 hours,
Yeah.
probably okay.
No, I really like the front and back analogy, and I never thought about it until you said it like that. Yeah, the front of most things, cook it a long time. The back of most things, don't cook it very long.
Yep. Even rabbits.
As a base level, right? There's obviously,
Sure, there's
exceptions.
Yeah, I'm immediately gone to the exception of like, I have an elk, you can get really good steaks out of the shoulder, but that's
Sure.
2.0.
For sure. For sure.
With fish, everybody bitches about fish sticking. Chill, honey bunny, chill. Like, it's gonna unstick.
Exactly. It ain't done yet.
It's just not. Just don't force it.
Let it hang out. Let it hang
Like,
out.
drink another beer. Like, it's.
Go open that dry aging chamber with a beer in it. Spritz your meat and go back at it.
Exactly. It's probably fine at that point. So, like, that's the thing. Like, if your pan isn't. So, if you want to cook a piece of fish and don't want it to stick in your pan or a grill gets hot. Pan gets hot. It's hot, right? Now you oil it. Mm-hmm. So, switch the oil around. It should have a wisp of smoke on it. Your piece of fish needs to be dry. Dry. Pat it dry with a paper towel. If it's got skin, run a butter knife over it, and you'll find that there's a bunch of moisture on that skin that you didn't know existed. and then lay it down, and it's going to want to curl. So use your spatula to press it down from count to 30, and then it'll relax and you'll be good. Now turn it down, and you want that piece of fish to sizzle like you're making bacon. It's like if you can imagine the sound of happily sizzling bacon in your head, that's what it should sound like. Don't move it. And let it sit there until it wants to release. What you do is if you look right down at the edge where the fish meets the pan, you're going to see that nice crispy brownness. Now you can try. And if it sticks, just wait. And because here's the thing. Most pieces of fish, unless you have a big block, like if you have a really thick block, most pieces of fish never need to be flipped. Like if you're in a restaurant and you've ever had fish and it's got that beautiful crust on one side and it's somehow not overcooked, it's because they never flipped it. What you do is you tilt the pan and you spoon over the hot fat over the side that's exposed until it turns opaque.
Yep.
That's it.
I always do that with scallops, but never with fish.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. It's the same concept.
For sure.
I cook fried eggs that way too.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, that's for sure.
You want
That's
it a little
an easy way to do
yeah.
it sunny side up without busting a yolk.
See?
Yep.
It's the same concept. And
Right.
these are one of those things that, like, people's heads explode when you show it to them. Like, oh, is that all they're doing here?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I got a spoon and took the juice and put it on top.
Spoon and fat and heat. It's magic.
Yeah.
So
It is magic
the
to me.
caveat to that is that you can't do this with regular butter because it has such a low smoke point. So you can either use some other oil, which I normally do, and then add butter right at the end. Or you can use clarified butter.
Ghee.
Because clarified butter's smoke point is 100 and some odd degrees hotter than regular butter.
Yep. I keep a jar of ghee at home in the fridge.
Yeah.
I'm making myself. This last Thursday, took a 5.5 pound Neil Guy roast, peppered it, smoked garlic, a bunch of ghee, sous vide it for 20 hours, then seared it really well. Prime rib. Made a really salty chimichurri to kind of help it out because I couldn't get the salt to penetrate. Oh, it was amazing.
Sounds good.
What? Let me
I've
ask
just
you
been
this.
experimenting with red chimichurris, which I'm going to post that on the website soon.
Okay, I would like to see that. Let me ask you this: if we're going to go down another quick hole, sous vide.
He thinks of the training wheels of cooking.
He does.
For the most,
I mean, it's simple. I can agree with that. What do you think? Mine was a little bit nerdery.
Okay, sorry.
Salt in long cooks. Some people worry about a curing effect, and I have a tendency to agree on the texture change in a sous vide on a long cook. Is that just perception?
no, it's not perception, but
It's a thing.
If you're talking real long cooks, like 8, 12, 24 hours, yeah, you're damn right it's going to cure.
Exactly. Yeah, because I've quit salting on my long cures and just doing spices and then salting at the end or like this big fat roast. Clearly needed a bunch of salt, so I oversalted my chimichurri to make up for it.
Yeah. So as pig hunters, sous vide is actually going to serve you really well because you could sous vide wild pig loin, at 145 degrees for like an hour, maybe 90 minutes if you want to be real safe, and you have pasteurized it.
Yep.
And so you could serve like medium to medium wild pig that's tender and safe. And that's pretty much the only way to do it.
Because there's so little fat, you're not going to dry it out.
Well, yeah, but the trick
And you're
is
pasteurizing
in order
for
to
sure.
kill the parasites,
Yeah.
you have to keep it at 140 degrees for X amount of time.
Sure.
Otherwise, there'll still be wee beasties in there and it can get you.
Sure. Yeah, I was talking. Yeah. In addition to clearly, all people overthink wild pork who don't eat wild pork. The common you post a picture of a pig on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Oh man, you got some bacon. Like, well, no, that doesn't exist because
Yeah, it does. It just depends on the pig.
we see very few. Maybe we have lean and mean pigs.
I think you may be hunting in the. Do you hunt them every month of the year?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's fascinating because there should be 1 or 2 times a year where they tend to be fat. Because that's the case in most places I've ever hunted pigs. Is that
What months would
they'll
you
get fat
recommend
and
then?
lean
We'll look
depending on the time
closer
of
because
year.
I think we kind of just wrote it off.
Yeah, I mean,
What-
check them out.
What
I made
month?
real nice bacon out of some pigs before.
What months have you noticed they're fatter, so we could actually look closer? Cause it kind of just became it's not a thing. We don't even look.
So California, you want to hunt them right as the green is going away in the spring. So they've been eating green things, and there's lots of new green growth, and it's starting to dry out. And so that's beginning of when it gets hot, and when the lushness of spring is over. That's a time where you can get big fat pigs. And then the other time is when the acorns drop, because if you got an acorn ear, they're going to be fat. And then we also have the advantage of barley fields. So when the barley's ripe, they get into the barley fields too. So the combination of barley and acorns makes them super fat.
Gotcha.
There's got to be a lot of oaks in hill country. I bet you can get some big fat acorns.
Yeah, and the wife and I have a hunting lease out in East Texas, and it's just chock full of acorns. So I mean, every pig I've eaten out of there is very nutty. I'll start paying more attention then.
The finest ham in the world is the black-footed, semi-wild pig from Spain that eats pretty much only acorns.
Yep. Maybe I honestly just never really looked hard at the belly fat, because most of the things I cut up, I just go gutless method from the back end, so I just don't even look, because quote wild pigs don't have bacon because they're not fat enough. But I mean, now that you present it as in food sources availability at the end of the season, I should look harder. That's completely on me.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, I'm looking at like 150 to 250 pound sows.
Okay. So we'll wait for big ones.
Yeah. I mean, and sows too. Like,
sure.
I'll eat small boar hogs, but big boar hog smells like my nads on a football game.
Oh, they do. We've eaten a lot of them, but
there's only so much chorizo you can make.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
No
good
doubt.
shift.
No
Love
doubt.
it.
Well, man, we covered some awesome subjects at very.
I was really excited about this podcast, and it did not let me down. For sure.
We covered some super base level. I don't want to say kitchen nerdery, but a little more than just like, wrap your doves in bacon, and don't overcook your back straps. Just things like that. So we could not be more appreciative of you joining us today, man.
Cool. I had fun.
Thank you so much.
And wish me luck. I'm going to be down in the Brownsville area chasing nilgai.
Yeah,
probably
man.
in December. I think. I don't know. Maybe January.
Yeah, that's the good time especially if you ever want to mount one. They're not shedding then. Like we have a tendency to hunt them in the summer, and it's a meat hunt, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but this
will be a meat hunt. But like I prefer my meat to not be 95 degrees when it dies.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
Quick.
Well, anything else you want to, yet again reiterate your website, your books, where people can find things, like shameless self plugs. Please.
The shameless self plug section. So I have 4 cookbooks, and they are Hunt, Gather, Cook, Duck, Duck, Goose, Buck, Buck, Moose, and Pheasant, Quail, Cottontail. And all 4 are available either on my website or on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. And that's true. You can find them in Barnes & Noble and bookstores and everything like that too. You can buy signed copies of my last 2, the small game book and the deer venison book. You can get signed copies on my website, which is huntgathercook.com. I am very active on Instagram, and I'm huntgathercook on Instagram. And I run a Facebook group called Hunt Gather Cook.
I'm on your Facebook group.
And that Facebook group, it's private, so you need to tell me in the questions that you heard me on the Stormwater Creek podcast, and I will let you in. It's basically, the way I describe it, is the Borg of wild food. There are so many people there from all different backgrounds and geographies and persuasions and you name it. And everybody's just there for the food. So super low drama, which is very rare on Facebook.
No,
for sure.
And it's just all about helping each other be better at working with wild foods.
I will attest. I look forward. I want to get rid of Facebook almost every day. And when people post stuff up on your Facebook group, it is amazing. Like, just makes me happy. Food, good shit.
Yeah, I mean, we all get smarter through that. And I love Instagram. I'm on it. I try to post almost every day. It's a great thing, but it's the interaction is not as deep as it is on the Facebook.
No question. I'll have to check that out. Personally, I don't spend any time on Facebook, but that could make me spend time on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, of course, I also answer any questions anybody ever gives me on huntgathercook.com too. So
sure, noted. Well, man, yet again, we super appreciate it. If you're ever in Texas, love to buy you a beer, have a beer, sign a book. Something.
Are you guys
like
all
that.
in the DFW area?
We are, but
Yeah.
we're
around Texas
as
a
all
lot.
Texans are. We ain't scared of a 6-7 hour drive.
No, not at all.
That's down the
I'll
street.
I'll ping you guys when I'm there next. I'm not sure when, but hopefully at least once this year.
For sure. When we'll keep tabs on it and reach out to you and say, hey, and
we'll definitely be there in 2021 for the next book tour.
Awesome. That's great.
Can't wait for your next book.
Neither can I.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
Stormwater Creek is the best. Grinch, the captain. Aim, the helper. Jordan, the problem solver. I hope you like Stormwater Creek. Stormwater Creek.